Hi, I'm Andrew.
Rebecca? Andrew? No, I'm not going to. I'll meet earlier about Cardell, and Jamie is going to lead us off with our PowerPoint today, and then Rebecca will be following with Redmer from Jenison will really bring, I think, some valuable expertise to this conversation, because she is coming from a district who has done things that really address 21F and other online learning needs. So I think we're really interested in hearing what she has to say. So Jamie's going to start us off.
Thanks, Barb. Remember that I've got to pass this to you, and then you've got to pass it to Becky so that we can actually be mic'd. Good afternoon. Been a long time since I've been to a REMC. I'm sorry. The air handling system is in full motion, huh? Yeah, I was going to say it's been a long time since I was a REMC director and been at a REMC in-service meeting. So, thank you for having me up. Barb, I added 2 slides to our deck, so now we're at 157, I think. No, I'm sorry. It's only 154. Barb and I have some slides. I'm going to go through half the deck, and she's going to go through the other half. We know that there are a lot of questions on 21F. So what we wanted to do is spend about a half an hour going through kind of the generic 21F ABCs, and then give Becky a chance to talk about what she's doing with the Virtual International Academy, and then open it up for Q&A. So I think we'll have about a half hour, if we do this right, at the end. So if you could hold your questions through the presentation that Barb and I give, and then the one that Becky gives. Then at the end, we'll have plenty of opportunity, hopefully, for Q&A. So I'll start right off with 21F and try to put this in some national context. There are 7 states that allow choice at the course level. And we may have another state or 2 that join as a result of some legislative activity this summer. Last year in the United States, if you looked at all of the legislation that was enacted that dealt with education at the state level, almost a quarter of the legislation dealt with some kind of digital choice, online learning, blended learning. I don't know of another topic in education that got as much traction at each of the state legislative houses in the last year. In 5 years, this map will likely be 40 states. And I will tell you that there are a number of people now talking. We think it's pretty novel for a kid in Traverse City to be able to take an online course from a school in Monroe or Dowagiac or Plymouth Canton. There are a lot of people in Washington right now thinking about choice, not at the state level, but choice at the national level. And so just to put that kind of in the back of your head to think about what, kind of where is some of this movement headed. Of the 7 states, up until, and the governor hasn't signed the School Aid Act, I don't believe anyway, unless it's happened today. So everything that Barb and I are going to tell you that's new is subject to the governor's approval. And everything that we have that identifies that a change in 21F is highlighted in red. Prior to the governor signing the legislation, 7 of the 7 states, 3 allowed choice kindergarten through 12th grade, 3 allowed choice grades 6 through 12, and Michigan was kind of the lone state at that 5-12, but that has obviously changed. So big policy discussion for schools. Pretty much every school in the state has been a consumer of online learning. Which schools are going to get into the provider realm of this? Just to put a little bit of this in some historical context, Michigan has been no stranger. In fact, we've been a leading state with educational policy related to online and digital learning. And the one that really put Michigan on the map was back in 2006 when we created the online learning experience. We now have 7 or 8 states that actually have more stringent requirements than Michigan has. Just as a reference point, and I believe these were sent out electronically, but about a year and a half ago, way before 21F, we believed that school districts were going to want to get into online learning, not using another provider, but doing it themselves. And we published this planning guide, and at the time aligned it to the school improvement framework. And that's a resource that's out on our website, just as a tool to help your schools think about all the decisions that they need to make as they're getting into online and blended learning. So 21F, really at that 30,000-foot perspective, what does it do? Okay, it provides unprecedented choice, expands, this is kind of key, district-based learning options. Key role, I believe, for school districts to determine quality in this whole initiative, and schools get to decide whether they want to play in this environment. can't be underscored that you all and your districts have all been doing things in online and blended learning for a long, long time. 21F didn't preclude anything from continuing into the future. It just put up a new set of rules for a certain kind of online learning. So a lot of people had asked a year ago, are the seat time waivers still around? And Barb, you can address this, but I don't think there's any intention on the department's behalf to stop doing seat time waivers. But it's just trying to underscore that there are all those things that are permissive, and think about those things that are now required under 21F. If I asked each one of you what the definition of an online course is, we'd likely have 38 different definitions. But 21F does provide a specific definition of online learning. And so you may hear me reference, is that a 21F compliant course? And what I simply mean by that is, does it meet the definitional requirements found in Section 21F of the School Aid Act? Needs to generate credit or a grade. Needs to be in an internet-connected environment. The teacher and the student need to be separated by time, location, or both. Needs to include an educator who has a Michigan teaching certificate. And then the legislation outlines a series of instructional methods that those online instructors are supposed to be involved with supporting. So am I talking loud enough? So the first slide that has something red, the legislation used to say grades 5 through 12. Now it's 6 through 12, assuming that the governor signs the School Aid Act legislation this week. Kids can take up to 2 online courses any academic term if they have the consent of mom and dad or their legal guardian. If they're over the age of 18 or older, they can exercise that right by themselves. Another new item, if the pupil has demonstrated success with online learning and the school's leadership and the parent believe it's in the best interest of the child, the student can take more than 2 classes in a given academic term under 21F.
May I interrupt you right here? Go back. This is where I think districts can consider seat time waiver, moving their seat time waivers to 21F programs, because the legislation doesn't say successful in 21F classes, it just says successful in online learning. So if you study what you have to do for seat time waivers and you look at what you have to do for 21F, the difference, of course, will be taking your courses off the Michigan mycourse.org site, but you have a lot less reporting responsibility under 21F. So something to consider.
So students now in grades 6 through 12, if they have the consent of mom and dad or a legal guardian, can make a request to take up to 2 online courses in any given academic term, and they can make that request of courses that are identified in their local district catalog, or they can make that request of titles that appear in the statewide catalog, which is mycourses.org. One of the common questions that we've received from schools is, can I require students to only select courses from their local catalog? And the answer is no, that's not in the legislation. Now, one of the things that we're starting to see school districts do is there's some functionality built into the statewide catalog that allows you to create a local catalog if you'd like to. Now, many of your districts may want to just go ahead and they've got a web master and they can easily create their own catalog. We figure some districts may not want to do that, and so you can actually go in and off of the statewide catalog create your local catalog, and within that you could say, well, I really like this math course from this provider, I really like these science courses from this provider, and there's nothing that would prevent a local district from kind of endorsing the courses that it would like its students to look at first. And I really believe that those local recommendations will carry a lot of weight with parents and students. So there is some flexibility for you to make those recommendations, but at the end of the day, students can pick from either catalog. It's not one or the other. So the statewide catalog is basically, right now, it's basically just a tool to advertise course offerings. I should have checked, but last week I think we had about 2,000 titles, and I think we had somewhere between 30 and 40 school districts that had begun to populate the statewide catalog with those 2,000 titles. So, where's Andy? Not that Andy. Andrew, the video. I think Kent ISD has 220 course titles in the catalog, if I'm not mistaken. Luke, you guys have 800. So we're starting to see a significant number of course titles being added to the statewide catalog. I think there was some concern that you could only add titles to the catalog at a certain period of time. And once you have the access privileges, you could add and delete every day, every other day, every hour. This is open to you 365 days a year. But it's important to indicate, at least right now, there's no enrollment or registration functionality within the statewide catalog. There is something in the legislation that asks MVU to work with stakeholders to examine the possibility of adding some functionality to the statewide catalog to deal with some of those issues. A condition of putting a course title into the catalog is you have to identify the results of a quality review. We identified the INACOL standards as the benchmark to do those reviews. And I know some team members on our staff are going around the state. I think we've worked with about 7 or 8 ISDs so far and done training on how to evaluate online course content. If any of you have an interest in holding a session at your area, your ISD or REMC, we'd be happy to come on up or come on over, come on down and do a session for you. I think the initial session we're doing right now is around 3 or 4 hours long. But on the website, and you can see the address, you can go through and look at the 52 standards that make up the quality review guidelines. A lot of school districts have called and said, we don't have online content, we don't have teachers trained to teach online courses, maybe we don't have an LMS environment. Is there anything that would prevent us under 21F from contracting with those services? There's absolutely no prohibition against that in 21F. So a district could say, you know, we're going to get our content from provider A, we're going to train our own teachers, and we're going to use the LMS services at the ISD or from another provider. I think the thrust there on the part of the legislature and the governor was, how do we grow this environment so that school districts aren't having to rely exclusively on third-party providers? And one of the ways in which schools may start to get into this space is actually working through third-party organizations.
Back to the review process, is it still any 2 groups that you choose to review a course? Is that still what's set up in order for it to get on the catalog? So if we at the ISD wanted to put a course in the catalog, we would just have to identify 2 different groups, go through a review process, redesign, and once the ratings have been done and submitted through the
mycourses.org.
That's still the process. There's not any governance over that still.
Yeah, I think there had been some concerns or maybe some optimism that the department or MVU was going to review courses. That's obviously not the case. If you put a course title into the statewide catalog and it is your course, you need to have a review associated with that course. If you created the course, the best practices that we identify in the planning guide is that you not do the review, that you work with somebody who wasn't involved in creating the online course. So it may be that a local district creates an online course and some people within the ISD partake in the review of that, or somebody at the ISD. We don't identify who has to do the review. We're just simply identifying kind of best practice in the review process. I think the biggest element there is, if you created the online course, you shouldn't be reviewing the online course. Now, if, let's just say, you guys put a title in the course and the content came from ABC provider, you would be able to review the content of that because you weren't involved in creating it.
I just thought that it'd be important for everybody to know, because a lot of the out-of-box providers, Edgenuity, for example, are rated at 4 across the board, which is suspicious to me. So
This is a buyer beware catalog, by the way. MVU does not,
yeah,
MVU does not.
but I'm
so
just trying to make everybody aware of
point
that,
to make.
because so the rating systems take them with a grain of salt, I guess.
Yeah. One of the things that we'll be on the hook to do a year from now, well, actually starting this fall when we start to get the data, is you'll be able to go into the course catalog, and let's just say Ken ISD has I don't know, astronomy course in the statewide catalog, and there were 60 kids that took it in the 13-14 school year. One of the things that you'll be required to do as a contributor to the course catalog is to report how many enrollments you had and then how many of those enrollments were actually successful in earning a 60% or more. And then that will be one additional piece of information that gets published so that parents and students can have access to that. They're just not seeing a course title and a quality review. They're actually seeing some enrollment numbers and some completion rates. And that it's not perfect, but it's probably better than nothing. I think I've got 2 more slides, and I'm going to turn it over to Barb, and I think I'm almost on time, Barb. Last year, or the year that we just finished, the legislature in 21F identified a course price ceiling, and if it was a semester-length course, it was the equivalent of 1/12 of your local district foundation allowance. If it was a semester or trimester-length course, it was equivalent to 1/18. And what the governor had proposed was taking and moving to a 6.25%, which equates to around $450. And I think if you look in the statewide catalog, I don't know if there's maybe a handful of course titles that are priced more than $500. Most of them are under $450. But I think the administration was recognizing that there are real local costs associated with delivering an online course and supporting that student with mentors and labs and computers. The House concurred, the Senate didn't, and the Senate version won out in the School Aid Act. I was really disappointed because what it now does is puts at risk 8.33% of the state's minimum foundation allowance, which I think equates to around $600. So in essence, it's the 1/12 number that we were living with last year. That really is at risk in terms of what the district would be obligated to pay for an enrollment. And the 80-20 rule still stays in effect. There was an elimination requested by the administration, and the House and the Senate didn't support that. So 20% on completion, 80% on enrollment. And Barb, I'll turn it over to you to.
Thanks, Jamie. So one of the questions that used to come up often, I don't know if it comes up as much anymore, a student will come in to the counselor's office and say, I want to take this online course, and they'll already have a full schedule. And counselors have called me and said, does this mean we have to pay for the online course? No. The online course is part of the 1 FTE. So you do not need to go above and beyond your 1 FTE. They have to fit that online course in their schedule. Here is a huge change as far as I'm concerned. If the governor signs the School Aid Act, previous we could not allow parents to pay anything towards that course. That was legislation from 1970-something. Now they are able to pay anything that exceeds the 8.33% of the minimum foundation allowance. And you might say, well, how would this ever happen? Well, there are some courses, maybe they're not on there now, but they might come on there in the future from entities that would charge more than that. Say it's a special course from Harvard, whatever, Notre Dame. And the parent would say, I want my child to take that course. Fine. You pay the extra, they can take the course. You're going to be able to ask them to do that or allow them to do that. All right, here's the ways that you have control over, some control over what is happening to the students in your districts. And I love these slides that Jamie created. Mine are not nearly as visual, the rejected. So some of them are very obvious. The students earned the credit in the course. Why would you pay to have them take it again? It cannot generate credits. Now, all these courses are supposed to be able to generate credits if they're on mycourses.org site. However, your board policy may say something to the effect that we don't recognize this course in forensic whale figuring out why they died class, or something to that effect. We don't recognize that as an academic credit. So you could say that's a reason why we won't let you be taking that course. If it's inconsistent with the pupil's remaining graduation requirements, well, you'd say that no matter what the course was, whether it was online or not. If it doesn't fit in with what their schedule needs to be for them to graduate on time. I would steer clear of career interests. I find that that would be a hard one to prove why it's not part of a student's career interests, but it's still on there as a reason to deny. Does not possess the prerequisite knowledge or skills. If you truly feel this, then you truly have an obligation to ensure that they do have the prerequisite knowledge or skills. Jamie wasn't here, or Rebecca earlier, for the Central Michigan folks presentation, but I think from what they said, it's very clear that our kids need to know how to do this before they get to college. So if you feel your students don't have the skills, then, and I'm sure there'll be the people in this room, part of our job, to ensure that the kids have an opportunity to have those skills. There is, I know I heard from Jamie or from Joe that you're going to be bringing back OLOT. And OLOT was a fabulous tool, online learning orientation tool. Not only did it ensure that the students knew the technology that they would have to, the skill level for technology, but it lasted long enough that they got a pretty good idea that this is not a video game. This is not something that because it's online I can just click through. This is going to take some motivation and some perseverance on the student's part. So I really liked OLOT for that reason. And I'm happy to say that soon it will be back for you to give to your students. And then at the end of OLOT, if it's going to be similar to what it used to be, they'll have a certificate that will say they've worked their way through OLOT and they got an 80% or whatever. You can establish what percentage you want them to have. And when they get that percentage, then you say, okay, I guess you're ready now to take an online course. Fail a previous online course in the same subject. Well, that's one of the reasons that we send kids to online. If they failed the same course in a face-to-face environment, you'd want to put them in a different environment. And that's why online is oftentimes so great for that. Andy?
The course you were talking about, OLOT?
Mm-hmm. OLOT?
OLOT. Where is that in its process of being updated? Because there's been a lot of interest by our SUPs in having something like that so that students take the courses are students that are going to be successful.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you remember OLOT. We made it available for free, I think, starting in about 2001, and a lot of schools used it. It just became outdated, and ironically, there are other state virtual schools that continue to use it. Connecticut Virtual School, in fact, we've taken it off our website. If you want to look at it, just type in OLOT, and you go to Connecticut Virtual School, and you'll see it. It's a page turner. It doesn't sit in an LMS. We're probably 3 to 6 months away, Andy, from having something ready for prime time, but it'll be this school year.
And that's great news. Yeah, I've been sending folks to the Connecticut OLOT link because you can do a few things just to ensure that the students have worked their way through the course, provide them with a template, and they provide you with a few answers here or there, and you know they've worked their way through. I think the whole point of that, of going through that older version, is simply for them to see that this is real work, taking an online course. It's not a game. And back to fail at a previous online course in the same subject, obviously you want to put them in another environment to try that course again. Number 6, the online course is of insufficient quality or rigor. This is the one I think that most folks are going to when they want to deny the student the opportunity to take an online course. And this is where I would steer them to your district course catalog, because you want to ensure that these courses meet the rigor and the quality that you expect for the students attending your district. And if that's the case, create your own catalog. Pull the courses off at mycourses.org site that you have reviewed. Pull the ones off that you feel are of quality. Put some teachers behind content and offer them yourselves. But I wouldn't just close the door on it saying it's no good, because they will go to the superintendent, they will complain. And we may not have had too many superintendents overturn a district's decision yet, but I guarantee you it will eventually happen. Or you're just going to lose students to another district. So, don't, and I'm preaching to the choir here. It's usually when I'm talking to superintendents or principals that are saying, I'm not going to deal with the online stuff. I know you folks don't feel that way, but that's what I'm telling them, is that trying to avoid it is not going to work. It's not going to go away. So find a way to make it work in your district. These are the ones that we have been talking about, but now they're actually written in legislation. If the online course exceeds the amount identified, which is the 8-point-something%. And Jamie, I noticed they didn't address trimester courses this time, which is kind of interesting. So if you're on trimesters, I guess you're going to pay just the same amount as if you were on semester basis. And the last, the online course enrollment request does not occur within the same timelines established by the district for enrollment. And we've also been saying that this is something that you can put in policy, whether they legislated it or not, that students you don't have to accept a student walking up to you any time of the school year and saying, I want to take a 21F course. You can hold them to the same enrollment calendar dates that you have for your face-to-face courses. That doesn't mean they can't, because lots of times it's those kids that come the 1st of April that find out they need a half a credit, and they sign up for an online course, and because it's open entry, open exit, they're able to graduate on time. So that doesn't mean you can't enroll them. It just means you have that option to hold them to your school calendar. 21F does allow non-public school students to take non-academic courses. I think it's pretty much the same policy that you have in place for face-to-face courses. I just mentioned the appeal process. yes, the district, the student can go from being denied by the district to the ISD superintendent. Have any of you heard in here yet an ISD sup that has overruled a district decision? I'm not sure we're going to ever see that. Technology access. You do not need to provide the technology. Why wouldn't you? But you do not need to provide the technology unless you're already doing it for your other students. I've even gone so far as to say, if you have had students taking online courses, whether it be 21F or under 50A, and you've provided them with the laptop, some piece of technology to access, I think you still need to do that for 21F because I think that is already providing technology access. Of course, if you're one-to-one, it's kind of a moot point. I don't know if there's a slide in here or not, Jamie, but one of the slides that we've used in the past talks about the course and where the student takes the course. And Joe corrected me on this. You can ask your students to remain on site for the course. I had said earlier on that a student, you didn't have that opportunity. This is online learning, anytime, any place, anywhere, any pace, or whatever variation of that. And they would be anywhere they wanted to be. I was wrong. So with 21F, it just says separated by time and place. So if you want to keep your students on campus for their course, and it would make a lot of sense if it's in the middle of the school day to keep them on campus. If it's first or last hour, why would you need them there? But that is a policy you need to have in place, one way or the other. If you are going to offer courses on mycourses.org site, a wonderful problem to have would be that you had too many students sign up for the course. If that happens, you will hold a lottery similar to what you would do for school of choice, and that's how you would determine which students get to go take your wonderful, exciting course that you've put on the mycourses.org site. Credit for online courses. Oh, I had a few phone calls about this just recently. Yes, the district must grant appropriate academic credit, and it's very critical, I think, that you put the course name that is noted in the course description on the mycourses.org site. That is from, what is it called? The NAACP. What are the, NCIS. There it is, NCIS. That's what colleges understand. So use that course name. You do not need to note that it is online. You know, like Central mentioned, they don't know. They get transcripts from high schools. They don't know if the kids have taken online courses or not. They would like to know. You don't need to put that on. You put the course and name that is on the course description. Oh, so the question I had, and this was really, I can't remember the school district now, but yes, I can. It's on the east side of the state. I won't say it. But anyway, they were having quite a discussion with the superintendent, the principal of the high school, and a group of parents. The course grade was coming from the course instructor who was not a teacher in the district. Now, I'd always been led to believe that the course instructor provides a percentage grade to the district. The district determines what that equals as a letter grade on the student's transcript. And so this one student was 1 percentage point off of being valedictorian because of his online AP course, and he was now going to be a salutatorian. And of course, the parents were very upset. They came to me and wanted me to make the decision, like, oh no, that's not my job. But and they said, well, our superintendent agrees with you, but we can't get this principal to do it. I said, that's a district level decision. But it does point out that you need to have that policy in place. How are you going to determine the grade for the course? Have it ahead of time. You won't run into these situations just at graduation. Reporting requirements. So, Jamie, maybe you know something. Just today, I was looking at both the seat time waiver report that has to go out. If any of you have seat time waivers, you have to fill out a seat time waiver report. Now there is another online learning report. Did you see that memo that came out last week on the 19th? So what I need to find out is if you filled out a seat time waiver report, do you include those folks on the memo that came out on the 19th for your online learning report? I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
This is new.
Right, but that would be the third report. So we may be analyzing you to death. So we do want this information. You're also going to find out that you folks may not do this job, but the teacher-student data link is now going to be asking you for even more additional information, probably not until next year. Eventually we're going to get down to the student, the course, the instructor, because we have to have that for teacher evaluation, and the grade, and even maybe the vendor. so that we can really pull a lot. When we get that and we can pull that data, we may be able to walk away a little bit from some of these reporting requirements, but that's what's in place for this year. And as Jamie said, it will tell us something. It doesn't tell us a whole lot, but it'll tell us something about how well students are doing in specific courses. This part I will tell you right now. If you have any questions about how this money transfers under 25E, please talk to pupil accounting. It would be too dangerous for me to go down this road and try to answer your questions. All I know is that it's not worked well for online. So there's no money that transfers with the student. Don't ask me why. Please look at the 21F toolkit. It is extremely valuable. Tell your districts about it. Make sure they see this. This has all the things that they've been calling and asking for, and I direct them back around to the 21F toolkit. It has those draft policies. It has the letters out to the parents if you want to send them. It has everything you really need to do a fantastic bang-up job of promoting 21F, implementing 21F, designing your policies for 21F, keeping you out of trouble for 21F. So please look at the 21F toolkit. And this is what the districts have to consider. How are they going to communicate it? We just talked about granting credit and how you're going to determine completion. You know, completion's left up to the district. I would say that the obvious answer is 60%. Would you not? I don't know. I mean, that's what I've been hearing. It's the district's decision to decide if the student has completed the course. Does that mean they've gotten credit? I don't know. It's the district's decision. But have that done before you have the conversation about our students didn't complete. Well, what do you mean they didn't complete? What is complete? Attendance policies, where are they going to be if they're on site? Who's going to supervise them if they're on site? How are you going to manage all that? Some of you may have this all figured out already, piece of cake. There are districts, I guarantee you, who do not have it figured out at all. And the most important piece of all of this is the mentors. How many of you know that you have some mentor training somewhere, either at your ISD or your districts? Anybody doing mentor training?
Like regular state
Yeah.
Michigan mentors?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? We don't, that's such an important job. And now you can have parapros perform those mentor responsibilities for 21F only right now. And so if you hired a parapro to be a mentor, would you not give them some training? MVU has had best practices for mentors for a long, long, long time. As far as what a mentor should do. You've had that for a long time.
Mentor training handbook out on our website.
Yeah. And I could get, do the 2-minute version, but they've got a great handbook.
The mentors that don't get paid and don't want to do that work?
That's, excuse me, but a stupid way to assign students to a mentor.
I'm not doing all that. I'm not getting paid to do this. So if MDE puts out something saying, this is what's required.
You don't want us to require anything, I guarantee you. I would love to. But you shouldn't want us to. It's one more way to lose money if we determine you've done something wrong, so you really don't want us to. Yeah, right. But you all know this, how important it is, the mentor role is. And so please, when you're out there talking to folks in the districts, if they don't understand it, educate them and then find some way to provide some training for those mentors. It shouldn't take long. Okay? The mentor doesn't have to be an expert on the technology or the content. They have to be a caring individual that is willing to work with the student to ensure that they don't have any issues, that they're working through the course, that the mentor has conversations with the instructor, and that everybody's on the same path for success. That's not that hard. I'll get off my soapbox. And, of course, you need to have the denial acceptance policies in place, your infrastructure. Do you have the capacity? I would hope with our online assessment that we will have that capacity for bringing in online courses into your district. Some of them are quite heavy in broadband, so those are some issues you have to look at. Course quality, we talked about that. Enrollment windows, we talked about that. Have those policies in place. Saves you a lot of time down the road when people start bringing complaints to you. You can refer to your policy. And I think I did it under my 15 minutes that was allowed. So we're going to have Rebecca start here, and then at the end, we'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you. 3 volunteers.
Oh, thank you. I forgot.
And Keith, only because your name's penciled in. I don't know why you didn't get an official. If you could come up here and just hand out some of these items so I don't walk away with a bag full of stuff. kind of like at church where you have someone in the middle pew there, kind of. Some color changing pencils. So what mood are you in when you grab these?
This was a cute one.
And everyone needs another grocery bag for, well, on our side of the state, Myers. No, there's nothing in it. Unfortunately, Eric. You know, I had candy, and I left it along with my adapter. So thankfully, I'm in a room full of techies that helped me out today. So you guys have been sitting all day. Michigan assessment, future of Michigan assessments, interesting. CMU. Oh, I hope I have enough bags. And I see you all put the reservations at the brewery right at the front so you can stare at that so you can get through the day knowing that you've got a 5:30 appointment. Oh, I had enough. Did I have enough? Yay! I was counting the
The men just didn't go.
Oh, I can understand that. Thank you. You know what? This is great. We need mental breaks once in a while, right? This is not a wedding. There's no wedding. You can take more than one if you want. Well, thank you, Keith, Becca, and Ann. I appreciate it. I'm going to kind of step away from 21F for a little bit, and we'll come back around to it. When we initially had a conference call talking about what we were going to present today, had a lot of local perspective and how we started up our online program at Jenison Public Schools. And as we've evolved over the last 4 years, how 21F kind of came back and we, I guess, got lucky where we felt we were postured that this was going to be okay. And quite honestly, how many districts do you know of, and Jamie and I were talking about this on the phone last week, that are utilizing 21F? Like how many enrollments do you get any of that data or that feedback when there is enrollments? You just know who goes through MVU at this point in time?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody know of 21F? Any districts talking about kids taking 21F? I know that, yeah. I talked to my colleagues. We're all kind of like, eh. But Jenison had 0 students use 21F because we had already had a system set up for our students to take classes in another building through our online academy. So for those of you who don't know much about Jenison Public Schools, I just want to give you a little bit of background. We are a West Michigan public school district in Ottawa County, so the OA ISD is our ISD. We share a lot of things between Ken ISD and Ottawa. We roughly have 5,000 students, grades K through 12, and we are very landlocked, but have amazing programming. Out of our 5,000 students, we have just over 1,000 students who are school choice that come to us in various grades and attend Jenison. We have 9 schools. 1 ECC, 5 elementaries, and our elementaries all go K through 6. 1 junior high, we have a true junior high model, grades 7 and 8. Our high school is 9-12, roughly 1,400 to 1,500 students on any given year. And then our online international academy, grades 6 through 12. Now, Jenison International Academy is coded as an entity within the state of Michigan. We are technically a building within the district. So any student that enrolls with us enrolls by way primarily of school of choice. Over 90% of our students are school of choice in the West Michigan area. And we are open school of choice, so we sort of self-impose boundaries of who's coming into the district and enrolling into Jenison International Academy. 5 years ago, we started the process where how many of you have your superintendents come to you and say, okay, I need you to do this now. And you're just kind of looking at each other going, how do I do this? You need to do an online program. We need to get it started now. Okay, is there PD out there? Anybody going to tell me how to do this? So you just kind of fumble your way. As we, in fall of 2009, as secondary principals, I was one of the assistant principals at Jenison High School at the time, we were charged with this. Find out how to offer online programming. So we did. We started a bunch of research. And the people I called on were you in this room. The very first email I sent out was to Ann Thorpe at my ISD. And what do? I have to put together an online program, and I don't know what you know. And I need you to help me. And that's how important all of you are in this room. As locals, we need you. And we appreciate you more than you know, because we know that how much work you do, enough for twice as many people as you have. But when we went through this process, year by year, we took it very slow. Quality over quantity. And as we did, I kept deferring back to Ann. Our first year after research, we decided, okay, we're going to launch this program. Everything we did was research-based. We started with a small cohort of 9th grade students, and we looked at it as an institutional direction versus having online in addition to what the students were doing, because that's what our stakeholders wanted. So as we went through this, in 2010, we did a pilot, and we used the GenNet seat time waiver. We didn't have the ability to get a seat time waiver yet. We weren't one of those Project Reimagine grant recipients where they were already using theirs, and we were, waiting until the state opened it up for the rest of the school districts. So we started up with 9th graders, and we used GenNet, which when I student taught in the 90s over at Fenton High School, part of GISD, GenNet was a big room full of TVs that, does anybody from Anthony? Yes, Anthony, and I've talked to Anthony too on the phone, helped me out tremendously with Florida virtual content. But so how much GenNet had changed, that was amazing. So our students started trying a variety of different courses on that menu. And we got a lot of feedback from the students, from their parents. So we started to meet regularly and created our own online committee. And the advisory committee was comprised of the parents and the students, our technology director, our superintendent, teachers, myself, the building principal. And we started to just brainstorm and collect the data. And all of our decisions from that point forward were all data-driven, but very slowly. We went very slowly. After our 2010 year, our 2011 year is when we officially coded with MDE, which was great because I didn't realize that came along with my SPR 40, my school improvement plan. All of those things got added on. But we're very vulnerable because we're fully online, and all of our data that's registered with the state is just truly online. After the entity registration in the fall of 2011, we added grades 9 and 10. And then we also added grades 8 and 7 to fit our junior high model. At that time, we were working with vendors independently, and we were contracting, pulling that content, and what was nice about the content, it was customizable. The ones we did end up going with based on the recommendation of the committee. So we aligned a lot of it with Jenison High School and Jenison Junior High. So if a student transitioned into brick and mortar and then came back out into online, they should be getting the same content, have the same outcomes. And they should be set up to approach MEP tests and MME ACT the same as the other students. That was very important to us in Jenison. In the fall of 2012, we identified we're ready to take on and start building our own classes. As you had said on the course calendar, we can do this. We got this. We identified the things we liked and the things we really didn't like about the CAN curriculum and the providers. I could write a book on some of the providers, from marketing to billing to their instructional groups. It was an interesting dynamic as a local nonprofit working with for-profits. The intention was not, you get me at the student. And when you don't have me at the student and you're trying to make a buck, it's very difficult to make the right decisions. So we started to step out, and we went back to the committee, the advisory committee. What's our LMS going to be? How are we going to put this all together? So we went with Blackboard after a bunch of different, we looked at Brain Honey, we looked at Canvas, we looked at Moodle, we looked at Blackboard, and we had gone with that based on the committee's recommendation. In the fall of 2013, we launched all of our 9th grade courses on our own platform and by our own teachers in Jenison. And the data is overwhelmingly positive. Our students that earned their credits on our platform, they were more academically successful than in the canned curriculums, even with the modifications. I mean, we would even change all the assessments and order them in the DOK levels and tear them apart, but it still comes down to, it doesn't matter what kind of curriculum you have online, it's your teachers. They are there on the front lines with your kids, and they are doing everything they can to make them successful and to get them where they need to be. So this past year, as we added one grade level at a time, this is the first year we were 6 through 12, we graduated our very first class this spring. So it was a big accomplishment for us, but now we're back to the drawing board because we have so much to do. We've laid all the groundwork, now we got to go back and weed the garden and make sure that everything is going to be even better this next school year. Our mission statement is to providing an engaging, personalized learning experience, bringing the home, school, and world together. Now, online learning was our foundation. From our foundation, we've been able to use that as a springboard into multiple different directions. Out of our offices, I used to be the principal, but now the executive director of operations. So personnel, billing, all that fun stuff, but also a lot of international pieces. The primary thing that we do out of JIA is administer and instruct local online courses with Jenison students, our school of choice students who are full-time enrolled, and now a sprinkling, kind of a smattering of 21F students that are selecting us on the catalog. Number 2, build and design Jenison-specific online classes to deliver. So that course design and development process, that's a full-time job in itself. That's a lot of work. But we're doing it slow, and we're doing it right. And the third thing was provide distance learning and other services to international partnerships. We have direct partnerships with schools in China, in South Korea, and in Scotland. So as we learn the online learning piece and online delivery piece, technology allows you to shrink the world a little bit and establish those partnerships and get your kids in course sections with other students all over the world, which is fantastic. So I'm going to focus on the first two and then kind of give a little blurb about the international piece at the end. Our philosophy and what we've learned over the years, and we are still learning, we are not perfect. We will take any advice all of you have to give us at any point in time. But we, number one, need to build relationships with each student and each parent. That is our primary focus when we start the school year. Many of our teachers have gone through Capturing Kids' Hearts training and really worked through that personal piece. You have a student on the other end, they're not going to email you back or talk to you. They don't know you, they don't trust you, they don't get to see you every day. They don't know what the tone of your email is because they don't have a conversation with you verbally. So our teachers go out of their way to really establish that relationship piece right out of the gate. And as that relationship piece starts to evolve, we make sure that students know that we have a student-centric model. So all of our approach and all of our courses, it's not about the teacher's lecture and all the beautiful things that they put up in the course. It's about you. It's about you as a student. We want to make sure you get through the class. We communicate every way possible. Email, we email a Wildcat Weekly announcement every Friday. We have a monthly newsletter, and those are all posted on our website, and you can feel free to check them out. If you've got local districts that are looking at doing an institutional online school, then feel free to grab whatever you want off of our website. We use social media like crazy, our Twitter, our Facebook. We make sure that if we push out a communication, we put it on our calendar, we put it on our website, we put it in multiple places. You can never over-communicate something. Like, Don't forget, MEP testing is next week. You cannot miss this. Engaging students, taking the teachers through and engaging online learners, the different phases, and helping them kind of work through the semester with the students is really important. And of course, relevancy. If it's not relevant to the student, they're going to put it off. They've got other things to do than to log into their class and start what they need to get started. But if you make it relevant and it personal, then they'll come and they'll attend the live Blackboard Collaborate session. They'll start to see them populate their discussion boards. They're going to do those types of things. So this is what we have found just in our practice over the last 4 years. Our staffing is kind of unique with our online academy. We are not a part of any bargaining unit. We are all at-will employees. We have 2 full-time mentor teachers that also act as an online instructor. So my middle school instructor, grades 6 through 8, he does all the core content for the 50 students that are in the middle school program, or excuse me, the 35 students in the middle school program. And then the high school mentor teacher also teaches all of our social studies classes online too. Yes?
Okay, so the teachers that are on staff are not part of your teachers union?
No.
So they're outside of the teachers group that teach for Genesee Public Schools?
Yes. Our full-time teachers, yes. But we also have part-time teachers too. And we have JPS teachers that teach for us as extra duty, kind of like a Schedule B. So if you're a coach or if you kind of they have a stipend within their Schedule B or their extra duty. And we have a total of 12 teachers that fill 4.5 FTEs. So 4.5 full-time teachers, we've got 12 people. So it's a lot of training, a lot of PD. So always need your help in getting these guys ready to go every single year and throughout the school year. And then in addition to that, we also offer course building opportunities for an additional stipend. Sorry, it just kind of popped out. Nope. And we require that all of the online teachers have 1 year minimum of teaching online first before they take on the course building, because we want them to get a feel, and we also prefer they take an online class too before they start building the course content. And then the evaluation cycle is the same for all of the teachers online as well. Just like you'd evaluate your coaches, you evaluate your extra duty staff as well. Training is a big thing, and this is probably where we, as we key into this, work with your locals, this is where the support is so essential. Kind of big picture wise, I started at like LMS training and looking at the navigation, looking how to use the web conferencing tools, all the way down to book studies that we've done. Some of the really great book studies are, and I brought a couple of the books recommended by Anne through our various meetings, but Motivating and Retaining the Online Students, Engaging the Online Learner, and then all of our new teachers, we give them the Online Teaching Survival Kit guide that takes them through beginning, middle, and towards the end of the course. So we're trying to provide this and read these as fast as we can before we push them out to staff and really highlight things that help them be successful, because if they're successful, their students are going to be successful.
Would you send the books around?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are like 5 more, but I've given them away to various staff members. So now, in addition, not only do you train your staff, but you really got to train the students and the parents. The parents usually take about 4 to 5 weeks. The students about a week or 2. But the parents are the ones asking the questions. I don't know how many of you are former classroom teachers. Okay. So get a phone call from a parent. Taught biology, high school biology for 10 years. Get a phone call from a parent, and you're like, oh no. This is an issue. What happened? It's either a crisis or an issue that I need to address. And that was very typical. Online setting, when you get phone calls or emails from parents, 9 times out of 10, it's a positive thing. They want to know how they can help you and how they can help their student in your course. They want your suggestions. They want to know, what does this mean and how can I find that? So the parents, all of a sudden become one of your biggest advocates, and they partner with you, which is really strange but wonderful at the same time because you're not used to it when you still have that traditional mindset. So as well as the parents, we have them face-to-face. We have multiple evenings throughout August and September that we open up for parents to come in, and then we post online orientations as well. We have school-wide policies posted in all of the courses. We have parent-specific workshops. We have a learning center that students can drop in, parents can drop in, both day and evening. And we hand out the tech equipment. When you give them a school-issued machine, it's got to make sure they know how to use it. And sometimes you have to walk them through that. We use PCs. We're a Mac district, but most of the programs and what we have on our courses, they just work better with the PC. And we even do home visits. We'll meet parents at Panera Bread. Our mentor teachers will go out to McDonald's, wherever there's Wi-Fi, and connect with those parents. Again, going back to those relationships, they're number one. Now, within our course building, and this is, I'm starting to come back around to 21F. So talked about the online delivery. Course building, we have a universal layout. Our principal hands the teacher who's interested in building the course the layout and a checklist of what they need to accomplish, and as well as giving them a timeline so that they meet these deadlines along the way of the semester. It's really difficult to build a class in 3 weeks, unless you sit down and do only that for 3 weeks. So we kind of look at it at a semester by semester basis. We make sure that all of our school policy is posted, our local board policy about academic dishonesty, netiquette guidelines, and things like that. And then one thing that we do that I think is a little bit unique is we have Blackboard Collaborate sessions every week for each class. And if the student can't attend, that's okay. They can watch the recording. But the first 10 to 15 minutes across the curriculum, all the teachers are delivering ACT prep, content specific to those students. And they push out practice material to the student the week before. So when they're coming, they're calling on you in class and they want you to participate. And they even partner students up in various rooms so that they can practice and come back and share out. So there's some peer collaboration in every single week of the class. Some teachers assign points for attendance, some do not. You can see in Blackboard if the student has viewed it, it will populate automatically the point value in the grade book and those types of things. We expect peer interaction built in, so you're planning lessons and you're delivering them. And we expect the students to give you feedback. And then at our monthly meetings, what are your students saying in your classes, in your live classes? How are they doing? What are they thinking? At the end of each course, we also send out a survey to the parents and the students, and they are to rate each of their specific classes and give us feedback. It populates on one Google Doc for every single teacher to see. So no one's like, we're not hiding data, we're putting it all out there so we can have really great conversations sitting around our table at our monthly meetings and identifying what we need to do to improve as a school. Now, technology-wise, we are, as I said, using a Blackboard platform. We just upgraded to Service Pack 14 2 weeks ago, and I'm still trying to work out a few things. I think we'll go to the April release in September once they get a couple of those things cleaned up. We have all of our core courses and main electives almost all on our own platform. We have a couple LTIs pulled in. We're using Middlebury Interactive Languages and then Fuel Ed, which was formerly Aventa for some of the classes. You find that for every course content, there's not like, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, we have found. So you really want to diversify. You want to find those programs or those vendors or that curriculum that you can piece together that's right for your kids that you're serving. And they're not all going to be that in one-stop location, which makes it a little bit crazy for you in the billing department when you have all those invoices. But that's okay because you know it's the best choice for your students. We use Alex Math as a supplemental, but we also use it for a diagnostic. It's terrific. You got kids coming from homeschool situations, charter schools, public schools, some that haven't even been attending school, and you put them in there, make them take that 45-minute diagnostic. And that adaptive learning tool for practice is great when you're plugging them into, your traditional, we just build it into the Blackboard. Unfortunately, It doesn't link into the Blackboard. It takes them to an external site, but we make sure all their access login information is the same in both spots. We use open sources, CK12, ebooks, HMH, Encyclopedia Britannica. Discovery Ed just partnered with Blackboard, just sent to I had 2 of my teachers do the webinar last week, so I'm really excited. I'm going to go in and open that up and see how that can all populate. We don't have Community, so Community has that repository that you can pull. And I think we'll eventually start using Community, but it's just going to take us another year to learn. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious about that. So with your subscription to Blackboard, that comes with
Learn.
That's assessment suite then?
I don't know. I'm about to find out. We'll see. I'm going to go in and play around a little bit this week.
Is that the suite you know?
I hope so. I hope so. And they've got the new live session without the Collaborate, so I want to try that out a little bit and see what the quality is, because Collaborate's another add-on. And then we also have students in the K-12 OLS for our middle school. It's mastery-based. That's why we like it, but we have our own teachers. So they're doing their own thing with it. And then we use Fuel Ed, formerly Aventa. So our students, we have 3 different platforms, a separate management system with, they call it Peak 12, and then we have PowerSchool. So we're working in 5 different systems all the time. And not everything talks to each other, so you really have to have a specialty of, okay, now I'm in Blackboard, now I'm in PowerSchool, now I'm in Peak or the OLS. Okay, so Jenison, I'm coming back around. I know I kind of took a sidetrack there. Coming back around to 21F. Our kids were already taking courses between buildings. We were using the 508 manual. We like that because of the mentor-teacher piece of it. And we're used to it. And we've got a kind of a system already in place. We just put them in PowerSchool as taking a course in another building. And then serving students for learning options the past 3 years. We haven't had a whole lot of students take classes with us. The majority, what we found is very interesting, the majority of the students are electing to take our online classes in the summer. I just did 89 enrollments for my 8-week summer courses. And they're willing to pay for it because they want to get to the next thing. And they want to make sure they're checking that off their list. We have our credit recovery program, but our online classes on Blackboard are an enhancement. So they can take their econ, their government, their creative writing, health, PE, so they can get into AP, they can do all the other stuff, they can get to Career Line Tech Center without having to worry about all of that. We wrap our 21F students, yes?
How much do you charge for courses?
You know what? We charge $350 for our courses, and very few of them have materials with it. I know that MVU charges a little bit less. That's like bottom line.
Well, that's not bad for a parent to pay in the summer, though. That was why I was asking.
Oh, in the summer we charge $250,
See, that's very
and our in-house Jenison kids pay $175. Yep, yep. We open our learning center to 21F students, and we had 4 enrollments for students outside of Jenison to participate. That's it for 21F so far. So we just kind of are going to just clump them in with everything that we're doing anyways, because it's going to be helpful for them and helpful for the success of their child. And then the review process taking place using INACOL standards we were already doing, but what was great about 21F is it kind of forced us to do it regularly. And as we did that, we realized the INACOL standards, we needed to kind of rewrite it. So we did a Jenison version of it, which is nice because it's a faster checklist. But we have our teachers do a self-eval, and then we have our evaluation process going over, and we compare the teacher self-eval to the rest of the group. So I think
along with the rubric that you have to fill out in mycourses.org, so you don't remember.
absolutely, exactly, because I'm the one that does it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You wouldn't want them to.
Nope.
I was thinking through this now.
Yep. So this is an example. This is what we did. We just kind of put together a checklist. We put it in Jenison. We Jenisonized it, as we like to say, and kind of rewrote it, made it user-friendly. There's still some redundancies in it.
To share that?
Yeah, it's published. I can share this whole PowerPoint, but I set this Google Doc as published to the web, so you sure can. So this is just an example of something that we did, and we go through, we rate it, and then our principal will go back to that teacher, review the comments, based on the group's review, and then that teacher has 2 weeks to make the revisions, and then we come back around again. So that we're constantly, it's revolving, it's fluid, it doesn't stop. And then on our website, I'll just pull this up too. Under buildings, we're listed Jenison International Academy. If you guys want to just Google Jenison Public Schools, we're under buildings. And then on our website, we have all of the information. We've got enrollment options. And for our enrollment options, we've got our full-time students and our 21F. Resources, all of our different links to our different, we identify what classes you're going to find at different LMS entry points. And then this is just this is our entry point for most of our courses that we have right now. And then under 21F, I think I've got the summer school stuff still up. But we've created our own enrollment, our own district contract or district agreement, I think we call it. And then I've got the forms there too, so you can pull those off if you want. And we used quite a bit of the toolkit when we went through for our high school process for the students, just because the guidance counselors are so overwhelmed and they're trying to identify who's taking this online, who's not, and it just makes it easier if there is the paperwork or the paper trail so we don't miss a student in their scheduling process. Okay. Okay, now the last prong of what we do is we work with international partners. And this has been about 2.5 years through alumni. We have visited various schools throughout China and found schools that align with Jenison's quality and rigor, and identified also that do they have the technology support from the local Ministry of Education. I think working with MDE is a little difficult sometimes. It's not, they got nothing on the Ministry of Education officials over there. What we have done is we've got Beijing No. 12 Taiyuan Foreign Language School. Those are 2 high schools that we deliver online classes to. Starting this fall, we've got 2 cohorts of 20 students in both schools, and they are doing a 2+1 program. So they're taking half of their day Jenison online, half of their day in traditional Chinese, and then they, at any point in time, have the option of coming over and studying 1 year at Jenison High School. So we facilitate their visa, their homestay, we register with Homeland Security, we can do all of that, and it's a nice option for those students as well. Now, currently, I've got the sections separated in Blackboard for those students because we're walking through this baby steps for U.S. History and English 9. And once they get to year 2, I think merging the sections with Jenison students and other students enrolled, it's going to be easier. And we're hoping that as we go through this test year, we can work out all of those issues so that our students get that experience of having classmates on the other side of the world. The time change is a little different. And technically, the Iron Curtain in China with all of the technology, you know, there's no YouTube, there's no Twitter, there's no Facebook. So you have a teacher that wants to quick throw up a YouTube video, you can't do it. We have to convert everything when we post it. Google, when I'm over there, I can't open my Google Drive at times. It's just really difficult, but we've done our tech trials and we found out what works and we found out what doesn't work. So hopefully our students have the support. And we also have a teaching assistant in each classroom over on the ground, and they help the students navigate. And we have a quality assurance program, an external internal verification process, so that we know that these students are earning the credits directly. Plus, with the upgrade with Blackboard, I think I can set IP addresses, static IP addresses. So I'm going to go through and set those for those students in those courses and those labs. We also have winter and student exchanges for teachers and students. I've got a group of 10 teachers going over to Beijing next month, and they're running a summer camp for our students, American Summer Camp. And then in the fall, we are doing a reading writing workshop with the elementary students through our Blackboard with our teachers. So it's really neat, all the things that you can do when you got technology and it's working. We also have a school that is being built in Dalian, China, which is up by the Koreas. That is going to be a satellite campus of Jenison International Academy. We're launching that the fall of 2014, or the fall of 2015. Many of the personnel are going to be online courses because the staffing is so difficult to do when you're working with a communist government and trying to make sure you got retirement covered and benefits covered and how are you going to do your medical. So as we work through that process right now, what's nice is we can supplement a lot of the courses virtually. We have South Korea, Adams Education out of Seoul, South Korea. We help them with ACT, TOEFL prep, and then we also do a lot of visas and homestays and transferring students back and forth. Those are all their parents. When I went over to Seoul last year, a Jenison parent is a Jenison parent no matter where you are in the world. They all were hugging you and grabbing you and how's my child? So, and then in Scotland, we work with a division of the Scottish government called the Scottish Qualifications Authority. And we just went through an accreditation process where our CTE classes are now accredited and give direct credit to colleges in the UK. So when our students finish and they take a series of 6 business classes at Jenison High School, they graduate with their first year of college done in the UK, their higher national certificate. And we're the first school in the US to be accredited as a center. We're the first high school in the world to be accredited as a center. So we're working with colleges over there to hold seats for our students so they can do year 2 over in Scotland. And many of these classes, there's 2 classes that we're putting virtually. Business law and human resource management, those 2 classes are going to be virtual delivery as part of our SQA center. So again, going off that springboard of our online program. Questions?
I was looking at your website,
Yeah.
and it looks like you have activities that you offer for full-time online students
Yeah.
that are part of the regular Jenison Public Schools activities.
Yes.
How does that work? You're all over the place. How do they participate in?
They can participate in anything. So in our Wildcat Weekly, we put out those student weekly announcements. We identify, we have musical tryouts, or robotics club is signing up, or Science Olympiad. This is new for this year. We just received non-traditional status through MHSAA, so all of our students can participate in athletics too. We just have to add on another layer of reporting to the athletic department every Monday. And then in addition to that, for our online students, we have monthly. We try to do twice a month, but we do monthly get-togethers. We'll do Mel Trotter service. We'll go do volunteerism for a day. Or we'll do Art Prize, where they have a field trip, and the art teacher will put together a lesson for the students. So it is very much a community. Even though we're a virtual community, we're really connected. And we get a lot of participation, surprisingly. Especially grades 6 through 8. We get a much higher level of participation than our 9 through 12. Yeah. Need some sugar right now. How about 21F questions? Yes.
Students are taking their courses from another district. You have set beginning dates and set end dates.
Yes.
And within those courses, are there collaborative activities? Actually, let me back up. Are your courses designed so that all the students are expected to be, let's say, finishing chapter 1 by this date, finishing chapter 2 by this date, or do you just let them go in and do whatever they can?
We have a course calendar for every single semester course and their pacing guide. If they fall behind pace, we have a very proactive student intervention process that we established about 2 years ago, and again, we're still refining that, but it's worked really well. Our students have responded to it very well. Our parents have responded to it very well. So we'll flag kids after 1 week of not meeting the pacing guide. And of course, there's situations. They might have a health issue, they might have something going on at home, and that's okay. Then we just make sure the mentor teacher pushes out that communication to all the teachers, the instructors. Hey, this student has this going on. They'll catch back up in the next 3 weeks. So that teacher doesn't continuously send them emails and call their home and show up at their doorstep. So it is a pacing guide. We do expect that they follow it as best as possible, and we do make accommodations based on what the students' needs are. If we need to veer from it. Barb, did you raise your hand?
Yeah.
Were you going to ask me a question? Oh. No,
There's no need for that.
no.
The other piece is, how about your attrition, kids that go into your academy, not your international, but, your Jefferson School District? Have they yet seen good completion rates? Have kids?
Completion rates are good. I just finished my seat time waiver report, which after talking to Jamie, I mean, they don't publish that data, so you don't know how other seat time waiver schools do. You just kind of hear through the grapevine. Our middle school students have an 85% completion rate. Like in language arts, though, it's the mid-90s. Our overall school is 81% completion rate. So our students do really well.
How much of that do you attribute to mentors?
Our mentors are probably the single most important stepping stone every single day of the week. And on the weekends when they're answering emails and if schools are interested, I mean, we've got one high school and one middle school mentor that have been with us for the last 2 years. I mean, we would be open to sharing information and just kind of telling you, we can tell you what doesn't work. Well, let's see. I made a list of what not to do. Okay, the first thing and I did put this on the list, it should be number 1. Do not assume or think that your online program is going to make your district money. You are going to lose money. It is not a moneymaker. So tell all the people in authority it's not going to happen. I recommend not going full speed ahead. Don't go full speed ahead 6 through 12. You are not going to get MME, ACT, MEEP, docufied transcripts, everything set up when you know that you only have 1 year to do it. Unless you have an administrator in charge of like 1 or 2 grade levels walking through the year with them. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Don't sign a multi-year agreement with a third party. More than 6 months to a year. If they say this is all we offer, say you're lying to me and give me something better. We've had school districts call me and say, I really want to work with you, but I've signed this 3-year agreement. It's like, they made us do it. No, they don't make you do it. You don't have to do that. You can make it whatever you want. It's your kids, it's your program. Don't keep the technology department in the dark. One of my biggest allies is Dave Ski over at Jennison. He helps me with everything. I've got to talk to him about all the new tech specs, all our upgrade information. Are our student machines going to work? Are we going to be able to deliver this and that? We always are communicating. Don't set up enrollment documents without showing them to your pupil accounting ISD person. Kathy Breen at Kent, she's amazing. When we started the program, I remember sitting in her office 3.5 years ago going, here's my documents, what do you think? She's like, these aren't too bad. Okay, what do I need to change now to make sure they're exactly what you want? Every single year, I meet with her and give her my docs and have her review them. So we have never lost an FTE on our seat time waiver. Don't hire teachers without major online instructional PD. You can't just give them an account, a password, and say, here you go, play around, you'll figure it out. You've really got to work that in and front load it with your teachers. Don't hire teachers without learning your LMS or other operating systems. I remember at the symposium where our professional organization director said, it's like we're building the plane in the air. That's what it feels like. But if you don't know your LMS, you can't help the people that are directly working with your kids. So you got to spend the time, you got to designate an administrator, you got to put the investment in, or it's not going to work. Don't assume there's solid tech support with your vendors. It is usually a 48-hour turnaround. It's not immediate. But you're the one that's getting the calls from the parent and the student. And you have to work with them. They're not the ones getting the calls directly. So you have to have kind of a plan of how am I going to address this when it's not fixed right away? How am I going to address this when the LMS is down during pupil account period this fall? What am I going to do? You know, those are, seriously, that happens. I can attest to it. I recommend don't implement online policy prior to your board or stakeholders weighing in. If your board member finds out you got an online school before they know what's happening, then then you have tension, and then they're not going to support you fully. You got to bring your board members along with you, side by side. Don't wait to communicate to other district staff and buildings of new program. If the elementary and the junior high are hearing about us and they didn't hear it from me or someone else running the program, they're going to be like, what the heck's going on? Oh, this is my own district and I don't even know. Make it a point to go to each staff meeting, go to opening day, talk to each building, tell them what you're doing so at least they know and they can speak knowledgeably about what's happening in your district. Don't pay an invoice before combing through every single line. It never ceases to amaze me when you get those invoices. And if you don't know your kids and you don't know who you enrolled in what classes, the companies can make a whole lot of money off of you. So always document everything. Don't assume a student is cruising along if you don't hear from them or their parents. Bug them to death. Keep coming at them until they're sick of hearing you and you show up at the doorstep. Otherwise, if we don't hear from you, you know you're automatically going on the intervention step 1. Don't wait to review student grade data. It's never too early to review student grade data, even in the first week of school. Pull that data. How many kids responded to the discussion boards? The first week of school, the trends are already there. If I know that that student hasn't even touched that course, 3 weeks from now, they probably still haven't touched the course. So it's never too early to dive into it. Don't wait to begin academic interventions. Don't assume a curricular provider will have any knowledge about pupil accounting or state reporting. They cannot help you. They will say the sales portion of them will, but they personally will not be able to help you. Don't use only one mode of communication with enrolled parents and students. Don't hire someone that struggles with intrinsic motivation. INACOL webinar talked about the top qualities of an effective online teacher. In all 5 qualities, not one of them listed content. Number 1 was time management and organizational skills. That's crazy. Content wasn't even in the top 5. Don't avoid making friends with your high school guidance counselors either. Because you want them to be your advocate. You want to work with them. You want a great working relationship. You never want a student to feel uncomfortable because they're choosing online. You want to show a united front with the students and the parents so they feel good about what the decisions that they're making of what online class they're going to take. When you sit down with a student and you've got, here's an example, a senior going into her 2nd semester of her senior year. She wants to take one English class online. She needs it for graduation. She's never taken an online class before. She's in the musical. I know she's working 40 hours a week. I'm telling her, please don't do this. You're an AP student, but if you don't pass this class, this very first class you're ever taking online, this could be detrimental to your diploma. So she took it anyway. And we dragged her along the whole entire time, but she did it. Bless her heart, she did it. So that's my list of what not to do. Any other questions?
Yeah. We've talked about as an organization what relationship we should have with INACOL. I wonder what kind of, how do you plug in with them? How do you value them?
Some things are very valuable. Like right now I'm on the Student Data Review Committee, which is really interesting. The student data policies, which opened my eyes. Michigan doesn't have a whole lot of it going on, but nationally it's going on huge. So just a small committee right now, and we're working through, we had a couple meetings, and we're meeting again. We're pulling some sample policies. But it opens your eyes, and you're on the forefront of what's about to happen or what's happening nationally that's eventually going to trickle down and impact youth on a state level. The webinars are good. Being part of the Midwest Committee, it's nice to be connected. I get a lot of the data on like teacher compensation rates and student data completion rate. I mean, they'll share out, they'll do surveys and polls, and when you get that information, you're like, oh, okay, so we're doing pretty good. It's just kind of like a dipstick. You can kind of check and see how things are going. You as a group, I mean, we're part of INACOL as an institution. We're my mentors and my principal is in that. But it's up to you. Do you get a sample? Can you try it out for a little bit? Might be able to.
And are you doing anything with the International Baccalaureate? I know Spring Lake is trying to...
Oh, the IB?
Yeah, move that way.
Nah.
Okay.
Nah. We investigated it and we decided not to. Mm-hmm.
I believe Adrian Public Schools is the first
IB school in the world to be granted authorization to offer their IB courses online.
Which I wouldn't.
Who would have thought Adrian would?
I know, Adrian.
Interesting.
We decided not to because our superintendent said no. Yeah, it's that easy. We didn't even have to get a committee.
What are you hearing from your districts in terms of the pain point on 21F?
Pain point?
Pain points, noise in the system on 21F from your locals?
I think most of them are trying to keep, well, they're not advertising it, I guess, so they're not like putting it on, linking banners on their websites. But they're not turning kids away.